Welcome to Midnight Romance Stories. What happens when a girl who has been rejected her entire life refuses to give up on her dreams? And what if her determination unexpectedly changes not only her future, but also someone's heart? Tonight's emotional and inspiring romance story is called The Girl Who Never Gave Up. A sweet and heartwarming adventure filled with funny moments, emotional hugs, awkward romance, unexpected kisses, life struggles, and one brave girl proving that perseverance can change everything. So grab your earphones, relax, and let tonight's unforgettable story begin. Chapter 1: The Girl Everyone Doubted. 19-year-old Sophie worked part-time at a tiny bakery while secretly dreaming of becoming a famous fashion designer. Unfortunately, almost nobody believed in her. "You're wasting your time," her relatives constantly said. Even her ex-boyfriend once laughed at her sketches. Still, every night after work, Sophie continued drawing designs alone inside her tiny apartment. One evening, while carrying boxes at the bakery, Sophie accidentally slipped dramatically. Cakes flew everywhere. One cupcake landed directly onto a customer's face. The bakery became completely silent. Then suddenly, the handsome stranger started laughing. Chapter 2: The Rude but Handsome Customer. The mysterious customer introduced himself as Ethan. Rich, successful, annoyingly confident, and unfortunately, very handsome. After seeing Sophie's fashion sketches accidentally fall onto the floor, Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You drew these?" Sophie quickly grabbed them nervously. "They're not good yet." Ethan stared at the designs carefully. Then surprisingly smiled. "You're talented." For several seconds, Sophie forgot how breathing worked. Unfortunately, Ethan ruined the moment immediately. "But your coffee-making skills are terrible." Chapter 3: The Most Embarrassing Delivery Ever. Days later, Sophie delivered bakery orders to Ethan's company office. Trying to act professional, Sophie confidently carried expensive cakes into the meeting room. Then disaster happened. Her shoe slipped. Cake everywhere. One strawberry cake landed directly onto Ethan's expensive suit. The employees gasped in horror. Sophie nearly died from embarrassment. But instead of getting angry, Ethan laughed loudly. Honestly, that somehow made Sophie like him even more. Chapter 4: The Secret Dream. One evening, Ethan discovered Sophie secretly sewing dresses after bakery work. He watched quietly while she focused carefully under dim apartment lights. "You really love this," he said softly. Sophie smiled sadly. "It's my dream." But dreams don't always come true. Ethan became unusually quiet. Then gently placed a fashion competition flyer onto the table. "You should join." Sophie blinked nervously. "What if I fail?" Ethan smiled confidently. "What if you don't?" Chapter 5: The Funniest Practice Night. Preparing for the competition, Sophie worked endlessly designing dresses. Meanwhile, Ethan attempted helping her. Unfortunately, he was terrible at sewing. At one point, Ethan accidentally stitched his sleeve onto the curtain. Sophie laughed so hard she nearly fell off her chair. "You're literally trapped by fashion," she teased. Ethan sighed dramatically while struggling to escape the fabric. Honestly, neither of them wanted that happy night to end. Chapter 6: The Rainy Night Hug. One stormy evening, Sophie suddenly became overwhelmed and emotional. "What if everyone laughs at me again?" she whispered quietly. Without hesitation, Ethan stepped closer gently. "They're wrong about you," he said softly. Rain poured outside while Sophie tried holding back tears. Then unexpectedly, Ethan hugged her warmly. For several quiet seconds, Sophie completely forgot the storm existed. And honestly, Ethan didn't want to let go either. Chapter 7: The Biggest Failure. Finally, competition day arrived. Sophie nervously presented her fashion designs in front of judges and crowds. Everything seemed perfect. Until disaster struck. One model accidentally stepped on the dress fabric and ripped it loudly. The audience gasped. Sophie froze in horror. Old fears returned instantly. But then she remembered Ethan's words. Never stop because of one mistake. Slowly. Sophie stood up again. Chapter 8, The Girl Who Refused to Quit. Instead of giving up, Sophie quickly repaired the damaged dress backstage using spare fabric and creativity. The judges watched in shock. Moments later, Sophie confidently returned to the stage stronger than before. The audience erupted into applause. Even strict judges smiled proudly. Backstage, Ethan stared at Sophie emotionally. "You're incredible," he whispered softly. Then suddenly, he kissed her gently beneath the glowing stage lights. Sweet. Warm. Perfect. And honestly, Sophie felt like her dreams were finally becoming real. Chapter 9, The Winner. Later that evening, the competition host finally announced the winner. And this year's champion is... Sophie held her breath nervously. Sophie Miller. The crowd exploded into cheers. Sophie covered her mouth emotionally while tears filled her eyes. For years, people told her she wasn't good enough. But tonight, she proved them wrong completely. Then Ethan hugged her tightly while smiling proudly. "I told you not to give up." Chapter 10, The Girl Who Made It. Months later, Sophie finally opened her own fashion studio. People from different cities now admired her designs proudly. One peaceful evening, Sophie and Ethan sat together watching city lights from the rooftop. "You know," Ethan teased softly. "You still make terrible coffee." Sophie laughed loudly before gently leaning against his shoulder. "And you still can't sew properly." Both smiled warmly beneath the glowing night sky. And for the first time in her life, Sophie truly understood something important. Success doesn't belong to the most talented people. It belongs to the people who never give up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Midnight Romance Stories. If Sophie's emotional and inspiring journey made you smile, laugh, or feel motivated, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional romance stories, inspiring life adventures, relaxing bedtime audiobooks, and unforgettable lessons. Comment below. Which moment was your favorite? The flying cake disaster? The sewing accident? Or Sophie winning the competition? Until next time. Sweet dreams, and see you in the next story.